What's happening, yo? Today we're going to be reacting to something slightly different. God damn, this needs some WD-40 on it. Today we're reacting to the story of the deadliest shark attack in US history. If that hasn't got you curious, I don't know what will. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into this. Is this going to scare me? Yeah, no. Press play.
All hands on deck. Man your battle stations.
The tragedy of the USS Indianapolis is considered one of the gravest disasters in the history of the United States Navy. If you've seen Steven Spielberg's 1975 mega-hit Jaws, one of the most riveting moments in the movie is a speech by the character Quint recounting the slaughter of the crew of the USS Indianapolis by a school of sharks.
I'll never put on a life jacket again.
If you thought
Is that what he was talking about in that scene? That's mad. Do I need to rewatch Jaws as an adult? Because, you know, like, when you watch a film when you're a kid, you interpret it different than you do when you're an adult. And I suppose when I watched Jaws as a kid, a lot of it was just for visual effect than the dialogue. And I remember, like, watching that scene of that Quint and just being like, this guy's eerie, mum, this guy's scary, mum. You know what I mean? I never actually listened to what he was saying. So I'm assuming that there's some sort of like Navy disaster and then what, they go into shark infested waters or something? Is that where we're headed? Let's get into this.
clever screenwriter just made it up for the film, well, allow us to fill you in on all the gory details. Today, we're going to take a look at the deadliest shark attack in human history. Okay, who's up for a swim in the most shark-infested waters of history? Time to get your toes wet.
The ship was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine.
On July 26, 1945, the
1945.
USS Indianapolis completed a mission that would change world history when it delivered the components for the first operational atomic device to the island of Tinian. The parts would be assembled into the notorious atomic bomb known as Little Boy, and just a few days later, it would be dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima, wiping out an estimated 80,000 people. After completing the delivery, the Indianapolis was sent to join the USS Idaho in the Philippines. There they would assist in preparations for an invasion of the Japanese mainland. The ship set out alone for its new destination at a clip of 17 knots. It was smooth sailing at first, but the USS Indianapolis would soon find its journey coming to a sudden and violent halt. It was just after midnight on July 30th, 1945, when a Japanese submarine launched 2 torpedoes into the side of the Indianapolis.
Whoa.
It was a direct hit that split the ship into 2. The order to abandon ship came quickly, but not quickly enough for some. It took just 12 minutes for the giant vessel to sink, and many didn't make it out. In fact, about 300 men were still trapped inside when the ship went down.
Oh my god. That is absolutely terrifying. 300 men trapped inside. I mean, what baffles me in that situation is, it's like, do you need a order to abandon ship in that situation, or does your instinct not just tell you, I better get off this ship now? It's got 2 missile torpedo breaches in the hull. It's going down rapid. 12 minutes. Get off. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the layout. I don't know how quick it is to get in and out. 300 men on a contained ship must be difficult to get out on time. Do you know what though? It's sad on both ends. The Japanese ends, obviously, dropping a Little Boy, 80,000 people from one bomb. But I always say that there's energy in this world. It's referred to in different cultures as different things, like yin and yang, for example. The positive, the negative. For every action, there's a reaction. You know what I mean? The pendulum, it swings in both directions. It never ends. It just goes and goes and goes and goes because of the kinetic energy, I think's the word. Anyway, it's also known as karma. You know what I'm saying? And isn't it mad how this was the ship that delivered the components for Little Boy, the bomb that was dropped on Japan, and then not only was it torpedoed, but I feel, well, from the title of the story, we're about to get into some gory shark attacks. It's like, not only did you go down, you went down in shark-infested waters. I don't like where this is going. When I clicked on this video, I didn't know that this was going to be the story. I just expected, I don't know, some surfer on a wave or something. Not this.
They were never heard from again. Another 900 or so went into the water. They didn't know it yet, but their fate would be arguably worse than the ones who went.
Okay, I take it back then. So there was about 1,200 people, 300 went down, 900 did get off. It all happened in 12 minutes. There's probably not enough exits to get off. My bad. What do I know?
With the ship.
The 879 initial survivors were in trouble from the start.
The Indianapolis went down fast, and the resulting chaos led to numerous injuries and a lack of proper equipment for those who got off. Approximately 879 servicemen survived the initial sinking, but many didn't have the time to get life preservers, so they had to constantly fight to stay afloat. The ones who did manage to get life vests only had it slightly better, as they found themselves unable to do much but helplessly bob in the water. Many of the sailors were hurt, having suffered gashes or broken bones when the torpedoes struck. In the water, without even a life raft, they had no way to treat their injuries. As if all that wasn't bad enough, almost all of them were covered in fuel that was leaking out of the wreckage of the ship. It was so overwhelming, men were already beginning to die in each other's arms, floating in the ocean.
Talk about painting a vivid picture. Your worst nightmare, isn't it? Really. And I guarantee, I mean, maybe it's my mind just running away, but I guarantee there would have been maybe some people panicking who had been like, you know, kicking water, treading water for so long. It's only so long you can do it for. And then they would have seen people with like life jackets on and been like, look, I need that life jacket. I'm going to drown. And then you're probably going either we need to rotate or I'm jumping on top of you. There must have been fighting going on like that. Like when you watch the Titanic, it happens on that. But that is just crazy. Crazy. The ship sent out distress signals, but they were ignored.
The Indianapolis sank fast, but in those 12 minutes, the heroic crewmen sent out SOS signals until they were absolutely unable to do so any longer.
Wow.
Those SOSs were received by the Navy, but for reasons that remain unknown to this very day, they weren't taken seriously. Even when the ship failed to arrive on time at its destination, no one got suspicious. No search parties were sent to look for the ship or its survivors.
What?
In fact, no action was taken at all. By sunrise, there was blood in the water, literally, and sharks came to investigate. Aware of their presence, the survivors attempted to stay together in groups as they bobbed in the water. But regardless of how hard they tried, eventually someone would break away and the currents would carry them off. Once a survivor was isolated from the group, the sharks would move in and quickly pounce. Survivors report that everyone could hear the screams before a body was pulled under, and afterwards, only the life vest would pop back up to the surface. This continued for days.
The sharks fed on the bodies.
While the shark attacks remained a constant danger to the men in the water, there was one thing that gave some of them a stay of execution. Some of the bodies that were trapped in the Indianapolis when it sank would occasionally float up towards the surface. The sharks were just as happy to feed on these corpses, as they were a lot less trouble. Unfortunately, while the floaters in the ship slowed the decimation of the survivors, in the long run, it wouldn't be enough to save many. By that point, the sharks were in a feeding frenzy, and there were only so many who survived. So despite the reprieve, the survivors continued to endure more days of shark attacks.
So every time the sharks were coming in, we would kick and scream and do things that we thought would drive the sharks away, and they did drive them away.
Wow.
On the surface, the survivors of the Indianapolis could see dozens of fins circling them at any given time. Beneath the water, the sharks kept up their attacks. However, they didn't always pounce immediately. In fact, sometimes they took the time to psych out their prey. Apparently, the sharks would occasionally bump against the sailors in the water, but not necessarily attack them. This tactic was apparently meant to lull the sailors into a false sense of security, because shortly after, the shark would attack. The sharks dragged their victims down into the depths. With each attack, the water grew more bloody, which in turn just led to greater bloodlust in the sharks. The sharks were certainly the most immediate problem, but they were far from being the only danger the survivors had to contend with. As they were
Why? What other dangers is there at this point? You got Japanese subs, you've got great white sharks, probably some tiger sharks thrown in there. Ooh, your own army, navy are not coming for you. They're ignoring you. Sergeant, there's been a distress signal coming from the Indianapolis, and they've not turned up where they're supposed to be on time. Should we be concerned about that? Don't be stupid, soldier. Like, how did that conversation go? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? Going back to this, what other problems is coming next? Oh, probably starvation first. Maybe being so thirsty and then you're in water. You're probably going to want to drink that because it's liquid. But then you don't want to drink salt water because that's just going to dehydrate you even quicker. Yeah, damn.
in salt water, the men had nothing to drink.
There you
Since
go.
they were out there for several days, many died of thirst. Any who attempted to drink the salt water soon became delirious with hallucinations. The life vests were also becoming increasingly waterlogged, which made it much harder to stay afloat. Consequently, several of the men died in the water before the sharks could even get near them.
5 days.
On the third day, several of the survivors found some crates floating in the water and lashed them together. While the crates weren't sturdy enough to use as a raft, they could be used for another important purpose: drying out the life preservers. The men would wring the life vests out by hand, throw them on top of the crate raft, and then put them back on when they were dry.
I mean, who designed that? I know. What we'll do, we'll make some life vests. Yeah. So if the ship goes down, you bang this on and keep you afloat. But what we'll do, we'll use this material that absorbs water over a slow period of time. So eventually, the life jacket actually pulls you under and kills you off. What?
This system allowed more of the survivors to stay afloat for longer. As a bonus, one of the crates contained some partially rotten potatoes, which the survivors carefully rationed to sustain themselves as long as possible. It was 11 a.m. on the fourth day when the survivors were accidentally spotted by Lieutenant Wilbur C. Gwynn, who was flying a bomber on a routine patrol. He immediately radioed for help. The USS Cecil J. Doyle, a destroyer that was relatively nearby, was alerted, and on his own authority, the captain diverted his ship to rescue the survivors. Lieutenant Adrian Marks was the pilot of a seaplane assigned to assist with the rescue efforts by dropping rafts and supplies. After witnessing survivors being attacked by sharks, Marks used his plane to pick up the lone sailors most in danger of being eaten. The plane eventually became so full he had to tie survivors to the wings with parachute cords. But in the end, Adrian Marks saved 56 men that day.
Wow. Tied sailors to the wings. Imagine being one of them survivors and telling that story and living through that. And then 9 times out of 10, if you were to say to someone, mate, right, what we're going to do now, we're going to strap you to the wings of the plane, then we're just going to fly back. 9 times out of 10, you're going, you're not, mate. You think I'm jumping on that plane. But in this scenario, you're going, strap me up. Don't worry about the straps. I'll cling on.
Landed that big goose. I saw him when he landed, and as he came in and hit that first swell, and that plane shot back up in the air. I didn't know it, but he tore up one motor. He ruptured the pontoon, but he set that big goose down.
What an absolute
When the
hero.
captain of the Doyle arrived on the scene, he threw caution to the wind and pointed a searchlight into the sky to alert other rescue vehicles in the area. As it was wartime, this move put his ship in massive jeopardy, but he could tell time was of the essence. Even given his resolve, by the time the rescue operations were over, just 317 of the original 879 survivors made it back to shore alive. A disheartening figure, especially given that the original crew had consisted of 1,196 men. All of the rest had succumbed to starvation, thirst, injuries, or the sharks. Everyone in the Navy was shocked and outraged at what had been allowed to happen to the crew of the
You
Indianapolis.
know what I mean?
However, because their mission had been to deliver the parts of an atomic bomb, no one was exactly at liberty to tell the world what exactly had happened. The United States government kept the incident a secret for 2 full weeks.
Now, I don't want to step out of line. And I also don't want to go down the conspiracy route. But if we were to enter the mind of someone who was talking conspiracies, in their opinion, someone could say it was a bit of an inside job for the same reason they never wanted that secret to get out. Why else was he left for 5 days? Someone else may say that. Someone with a tinfoil hat on.
During that time, the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were both blasted, the former with a bomb made from the parts delivered by the USS Indianapolis. The U.S. finally released the news about the Indianapolis on August 15, 1945, the same day Japan announced its surrender. This almost guaranteed it would be buried by the news of victory.
The ship's commander was court-martialed. Why?
Several months after the disaster, Charles McVeigh, captain of the USS Indianapolis, found himself being court-martialed. Apparently, McVeigh had failed to run his ship in a zigzag course that would have helped throw any Japanese submarines off their trail. If you're wondering whether this is a case of the Navy scapegoating a captain for some made-up offense to take the embarrassment off of itself, you're not alone. Many have pointed out that McVeigh was the only captain who was court-martialed for losing a ship during the entirety of World War II.
Don't.
Even Congress eventually decided the charge was bogus and cleared his name of any wrongdoing in 2000. Sadly, it was posthumous, as
In 2000? I mean, the guy's lived his whole life now. You know what I mean? It's bang out of order. Bang out of order.
had taken his own life in 1968.
What?
Marshaled for losing a ship during the entirety of World War II. Even Congress eventually decided the charge was bogus and cleared his name of any wrongdoing in 2000. Sadly, it was posthumous, as McVeigh had taken his own life in 1968.
And I suppose you want us to say thank you for saying it was bogus in 2000. Like you're the heroes now. God dang. Is anyone else getting stressed out by this story? Is it just me?
When multiple people die from shark attacks, it's usually the result of a series of strikes by the same animal, limiting the number of attacks that are possible. For example, in 1916, a shark known as the Matawan man-eater, which we did in a previous video, killed 4 people and attacked a 5th. However, those 5 incidents unfolded over the course of 10 days. Finding anything that even compares with the nightmarish carnage experienced by the survivors of the USS Indianapolis is nigh impossible. The sheer quantity of sharks and the immense length of time they were given to feed made the incident deadly on a scale that is unlikely to be seen ever again. So what do you think? Is this your biggest nightmare survival scenario? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.
Yeah, that's definitely up there with my nightmares. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole scenario. Like, first of all, rest in peace, everyone who lost their lives on both sides, Japan and America. Like, war is just, like, ridiculous. The fact that, I mean, how old's the Earth? How old are we? You know what I mean? Like, how long is greed gonna get the better of man? It's ridiculous. It really is. But anyway, let's not get into politics. That is scary times. The thing is, I watched like quite a few documentaries, and you hear different stories because although, you know, we've seen the film Jaws and the behavior of the great white shark, there's scientists and documentaries out there that would argue that they don't actually behave the way it was portrayed, and that the great white shark actually isn't the most typical shark to attack a human. I think like a tiger shark's more inclined. Maybe it was tiger sharks, but it doesn't sound, from what I've heard recently in documentaries, like typical shark behavior to go on an onslaught for like 3 or 4 days, 5 days. But then at the same time, where there was like loads of blood involved, maybe that just like triggered an instinctive, natural, instinct within the shark just to attack. I don't know. You just don't know. What it must have done, because it happened either way. What do you guys reckon of that? Is that one of your nightmares? If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you've got any other suggestions you'd like to see me react to regarding America, the history, foods, you name it, and we'll make it happen. See you on the next one.
If you wanna see us do more of these videos, then like it and share it and subscribe, cause it's getting pretty expensive. We need to get monetized, cause it's getting pretty expensive. We can't afford loaded fries. Like it and share it and subscribe.